Imagine a world suddenly stripped bare, a world where the familiar comfort of family vanishes, leaving only an echoing silence. This isn't just a story of loss, it's a visceral experience of being utterly alone, adrift in a sea of grief and uncertainty. Think about the weight of a future unwritten, a path obscured by shadows, and the daunting task of rebuilding a life from the remnants of what was. This is the reality that Emily faces. At 16, the world that once held her, supported her, and loved her has crumbled. She stands at the precipice of an unknown future, carrying the heavy burden of a past she can no longer revisit. This story isn't about grand gestures or sweeping romances initially. It's about the quiet, often unseen, battles fought within ourselves when the world feels irrevocably broken. It's about the raw, unfiltered pain of losing everything, the crushing loneliness that settles deep in your bones, and the desperate search for a safe harbor in a storm-ravaged landscape. It's a journey into the heart of resilience, a testament to the enduring human spirit's capacity to find light even in the darkest of times. Now, picture a man, weathered by life's trials. A rancher named Jack. He exists in a world of his own making, a world shaped by loss and isolation. He's a man who understands the language of silence, the weight of unspoken grief. Years have passed since he felt the warmth of connection, and the world has become a landscape of solitude. He understands the ache of an empty heart, the way shadows can linger long after the sun has set. This is the world he inhabits, a world where the echoes of the past are as real as the present. Their paths converge, not through choice, but through a twist of fate. Emily, lost and vulnerable, stumbles into Jack's life. He finds himself at a crossroads, forced to confront his own carefully constructed solitude. What unfolds is a story about the unexpected blossoming of compassion, the quiet power of kindness, and the profound healing that can arise when two broken souls find solace in each other's presence. It's a story about the slow, deliberate process of rebuilding trust, finding belonging, and discovering that even in the face of unimaginable loss, the human heart is capable of extraordinary things. It is a story about the transformative power of love, not just the romantic kind, but the kind that binds us together, heals our wounds, and gives us the strength to face a new dawn. Let's delve deeper into the emotional landscape of Emily's experience, and then consider the perspective of Jack and how their individual histories shape their interaction. Furthermore, consider the specific ways in which grief manifests, particularly in adolescence. For Emily, the loss of her parents isn't just a tragedy, it's a shattering of her entire foundation. The grief isn't just a singular event, it's a constant companion, a shadow that stretches across every aspect of her life. This type of grief often presents as a complex tapestry of emotions, including profound sadness, overwhelming fear, and a potent sense of abandonment. These feelings may be compounded by the hormonal fluctuations and identity crises inherent in adolescence, creating a volatile emotional cocktail. Consequently, her behavior might fluctuate wildly, veering from withdrawn isolation to outbursts of anger and frustration, a clear indication of the internal turmoil. Building on this, consider the ways in which Emily might unconsciously construct defenses to navigate her pain. She might retreat into herself, erecting walls to protect her vulnerable heart. Conversely, she might seek external validation, clinging to anyone who offers even a semblance of security. Another crucial layer is the influence of her past relationships. If Emily had a secure attachment with her parents, her grief might be different from someone who experienced a more turbulent childhood. Her capacity to trust, to open herself up to others, will be deeply affected by the nature of her prior bonds. Now, consider how this applies when you face similar experiences in your own life or witness them in others. Think about the times you felt overwhelmed by loss, by the sense of being adrift. Perhaps you've built walls to protect yourself, or desperately sought validation from others. Perhaps you've struggled to articulate the depth of your pain, finding yourself trapped in cycles of behavior that only exacerbate your suffering. Reflect on the ways in which your past experiences have shaped your responses to adversity, and the ways in which your relationships have either helped or hindered your healing process. Further, it is important to consider Jack's perspective. His own history of loss, the death of his wife, has undoubtedly created an internal landscape of its own. The grief he carries is not the fresh, raw wound of Emily's, but a more muted, yet persistent ache. This is the kind of grief that has become a part of his identity, shaping his habits, his behaviors, and his relationship with the world. Consequently, he might initially struggle to connect with Emily's pain. The temptation to withdraw, to offer practical solutions rather than emotional support, might be strong. He may in fact project his own unresolved grief onto her, seeing her as a mirror reflecting his own unhealed wounds. This is not to say that Jack is incapable of empathy, but rather that his own experiences will inevitably color his response. Conversely, his capacity for compassion is likely to be profound. He understands the sting of solitude, the way loss can erode one's sense of self. Another crucial aspect of his character is his inherent resilience. He has, after all, survived, and in doing so has developed a quiet strength, a capacity for enduring hardship. This inner fortitude will be instrumental in helping him to reach out to Emily and offer her the support she desperately needs. Let's now turn our attention to the often unseen forces that shape our responses to loss and trauma. It's important to understand that our reactions are not simply random. They're deeply rooted in our individual histories, our attachment styles, and the beliefs we hold about ourselves and the world. Moreover, consider the concept of learned helplessness. If Emily, prior to the loss, experienced repeated instances of feeling powerless or out of control, she may have developed a belief that her actions are futile. This sense of powerlessness can be a significant barrier to healing. She might struggle to take initiative, to believe in her own capacity to effect change, and to see a future beyond her current circumstances. Building on this, however, is the idea of resilience, which isn't about avoiding pain, but rather about navigating it effectively. Resilience emerges from a combination of factors: a strong sense of self-worth, a supportive network, and the ability to reframe adversity. Consequently, Emily's journey isn't just about surviving. It's about cultivating these qualities within herself. This is where the role of Jack becomes so crucial. He can provide a safe and consistent environment, but ultimately, it is Emily who must learn to believe in her own strength. Conversely, consider the impact of unresolved grief on the nervous system. Trauma and loss can trigger the body's stress response, leading to chronic anxiety, hypervigilance, and even physical symptoms. Another crucial layer is the role of the mind-body connection. Emily might experience nightmares, digestive issues, or a general sense of unease. The healing process, therefore, must address not only the emotional wounds but also the physical manifestations of trauma. This might involve practices like mindfulness, deep breathing exercises, or simply spending time in nature. Furthermore, consider the power of storytelling. When we experience loss, we often struggle to make sense of what has happened. The ability to tell our stories, to find words for our experiences, can be incredibly empowering. Emily's journal, for instance, could become a vital tool for processing her emotions and understanding her own journey. Sharing her story with Jack in a safe and supportive environment can also be a way to begin to heal and find meaning in her loss. Now, consider how this applies when you face similar situations in your own life or witness them in others. Have you ever felt trapped by your emotions, unable to move forward? Perhaps you've struggled to trust others or to believe in your own capabilities. Recognize that these patterns are often rooted in past experiences and that healing is a process, not a destination. It requires patience, self-compassion, and the willingness to confront your inner demons. Let's now shift our focus to the profound impact that understanding another person's perspective can have on healing and connection. Often, in the wake of loss, our vision narrows. We become consumed by our own pain, our own experiences, and our own sense of injustice. We might perceive others, even those closest to us, through the lens of our own suffering. This can lead to misunderstandings, resentment, and further isolation. Furthermore, consider the ways in which Jack, too, carries his own burdens. His stoic demeanor might be misinterpreted as coldness, his silence as indifference. However, beneath the surface, he's likely grappling with his own unresolved grief, his own fears of vulnerability. He might struggle to express his emotions, not because he doesn't feel them, but because he's learned to suppress them as a survival mechanism. Building on this, however, is the idea that empathy is not just about feeling what another person feels. It's about understanding the experiences that have shaped them. It's about recognizing that their actions, their behaviors, and their reactions are often rooted in a complex tapestry of past events. For Emily, this means acknowledging that Jack's reserve isn't a rejection of her, but a reflection of his own pain. It means seeing him not as a distant figure, but as a fellow traveler on the path of grief. Consequently, imagine Jack's internal struggle. Years of solitude have created a fortress around his heart. He likely finds solace in routine, in the familiar rhythms of ranch life. Opening himself up to Emily, to the possibility of connection, is a risk. He might fear re-experiencing the pain of loss, the vulnerability that comes with emotional intimacy. His initial hesitation, his tendency to keep her at arm's length, isn't a sign of rejection, but a manifestation of his own fears. Conversely, consider the potential for growth that arises when we strive to understand another person's perspective. When Emily begins to see Jack through a lens of compassion, she's no longer simply reacting to his actions, she's attempting to understand the root of his behaviors. This shift, in turn, can transform their interactions. It can foster a sense of safety, trust, and mutual respect. It allows for a deeper connection, one built on empathy and understanding, rather than judgment and resentment. Another crucial layer is the power of shared experiences. As Emily and Jack navigate the challenges of ranch life, as they confront their individual traumas, they begin to forge a bond. They start to understand each other's struggles. They learn to anticipate each other's needs. They create a shared history, a tapestry woven from shared moments of joy, sorrow, and resilience. This shared experience becomes the foundation for a deeper connection, a connection that transcends their individual wounds and unites them in a shared journey of healing. Now, consider how this applies when you find yourself in conflict or misunderstanding with someone. Have you ever assumed the worst, interpreted their actions through the lens of your own experiences? Try to step into their shoes. Consider their background, their history, and the unique challenges they face. You may find that your anger, your resentment, or your frustration begins to melt away, replaced by compassion and understanding. Let's now explore the vital role communication plays in fostering emotional safety and cultivating genuine connection, especially within the context of profound loss and the formation of new bonds. Often, in the aftermath of trauma, clear and honest dialogue becomes a crucial lifeline. Yet, the very act of speaking our truth can feel incredibly daunting, laden with vulnerability. Furthermore, the creation of a secure space where feelings can be freely expressed without judgment or interruption is paramount. This involves active listening, demonstrating empathy, and validating the emotions of another, even if those feelings are difficult or uncomfortable to hear. Building on this, however, the ability to set healthy boundaries becomes equally critical. Emily, in her vulnerable state, may struggle to define her own needs and limits. Jack, too, might find himself overextending, attempting to fix her pain rather than simply providing support. Consequently, open and honest communication becomes a cornerstone for establishing these boundaries, ensuring that both individuals feel safe, respected, and empowered within their relationship. Conversely, consider the potential for miscommunication and misunderstanding. The absence of clear dialogue can lead to assumptions, resentment, and the erosion of trust. Imagine Emily, struggling to articulate her grief, resorting to indirect communication or passive-aggressive behavior. Jack, unable to decipher her unspoken needs, might misinterpret her actions, leading to further emotional distance. Another crucial layer is the role of nonverbal cues. Body language, facial expressions, and tone of voice often convey more than words themselves. The ability to accurately interpret these signals while also being mindful of our own nonverbal communication is essential for building rapport and fostering connection. For instance, a simple gesture of offering a comforting touch, a reassuring glance, or a shared moment of silence can speak volumes, transcending the limitations of language. Now consider how this applies when you find yourself navigating difficult conversations or attempting to build deeper connections with others. Have you ever hesitated to share your true feelings, fearing judgment or rejection? Perhaps you've struggled to listen attentively to the experiences of another, allowing your own biases or assumptions to color your perception. The practice of mindful communication begins with self-awareness. It involves recognizing our own emotional triggers, understanding our communication patterns, and consciously choosing to respond with empathy and understanding. The next step is to create a safe space. Then, actively listen, validate, and seek to understand. By embracing these principles, we can cultivate relationships built on trust, respect, and a shared commitment to emotional well-being. Let's now turn our attention to the very essence of what constitutes conscious love, particularly within the context of healing and personal transformation. True, enduring love transcends superficiality. It's a profound connection that nurtures growth, celebrates authenticity, and fosters a shared journey of self-discovery. Furthermore, this form of love doesn't seek to control or possess. It offers freedom, allowing each individual to evolve and flourish in their own unique way. Building on this, however, is the concept of mutuality. In a relationship rooted in conscious love, both individuals contribute equally, supporting each other's dreams, aspirations, and vulnerabilities. It's a dance of giving and receiving where each partner feels seen, heard, and valued for who they truly are. Consequently, this type of love requires a deep commitment to truthfulness. It necessitates open communication, honest self-reflection, and the willingness to confront difficult emotions, both individually and as a couple. Conversely, consider the pitfalls of conditional love. This is the kind of love that is contingent upon external factors such as achievement, appearance, or social status. This can manifest as a stifling environment where one or both partners feel pressured to conform to certain expectations, sacrificing their authenticity in the process. Another crucial layer is the role of forgiveness. In any relationship, misunderstandings and conflicts are inevitable. Conscious love requires the ability to forgive, not just the other person, but also oneself. It means letting go of resentment, cultivating compassion, and choosing to move forward with an open heart. Moreover, think of how this translates to Emily's and Jack's evolving relationship. Initially, Jack might view his role as a protector, offering her shelter and guidance, but as their connection deepens, he must learn to embrace a different form of love. He must encourage her independence, celebrate her strength, and allow her to find her own path. This will mean acknowledging that her healing journey is unique to her, and that he can only support her, not control her. Now, consider how this applies when you seek to cultivate love in your own life. Have you ever felt trapped in a relationship that stifled your growth, where you felt pressured to be someone you're not? consider the ways in which you can cultivate a more conscious form of love, one that is rooted in authenticity, freedom, and mutual respect. It starts with self-love. It means accepting your own imperfections, embracing your vulnerabilities, and honoring your own needs. It requires a willingness to be vulnerable, to communicate your truth, and to embrace the imperfections of those you love. Consider the subtle, yet potent influence of vulnerability in fostering conscious love. It's not about grand pronouncements or dramatic displays, but rather the quiet courage to reveal our authentic selves, flaws and all. It's the willingness to dismantle the protective walls we construct around our hearts, allowing another person to see the landscape within, both the sunlit meadows and the shadowed valleys. Furthermore, this requires a profound understanding of our own emotional landscape. It's the capacity to recognize our triggers, acknowledge our fears, and articulate our needs with clarity and compassion. Building upon this, however, is the practice of self-compassion. This means treating ourselves with the same kindness, understanding, and empathy we would offer a dear friend navigating a difficult time. Consequently, when we approach our relationships from a place of self-acceptance, we become less dependent on external validation and more capable of offering genuine, unconditional love to others. Conversely, the absence of vulnerability creates an environment of superficiality and distrust. When we hide our true selves, we invite others to do the same, fostering a culture of emotional distance. Another crucial layer is the way vulnerability can deepen intimacy. When we share our authentic selves with another person, we create a space for mutual understanding and connection. Imagine two people standing on opposite sides of a chasm. One is shrouded in armor, impenetrable to the elements. The other extends a hand, offering a bridge. The first, fearing exposure, hesitates. The second, understanding the inherent risk, yet aware of the potential for connection, takes a step forward. Their journey is fraught with challenges, yet the very act of bridging the gap creates a bond stronger than any barrier. Now, consider how this applies when you face the complexities of love in your own life. Have you ever felt compelled to present a perfect image, concealing your true self to avoid judgment or rejection? Perhaps you've been hesitant to share your deepest fears or vulnerabilities, fearing that it might make you seem weak or flawed. The path to conscious love demands that we embrace the beauty of our imperfections and the power of our vulnerability. Recognize that genuine connection is not built on perfection, but on authenticity. By allowing yourself to be seen, you invite others to do the same, creating a space for love to flourish. By embracing the truth of your being, you unlock the potential for a love that is both transformative and enduring. The human heart, a resilient organ, often bears the imprint of past hurts. Yet, the path to healing isn't solely about eradicating these scars, but rather learning to integrate them into the narrative of our lives. It's about recognizing that our experiences, no matter how painful, contribute to the tapestry of who we are. Furthermore, consider the concept of post-traumatic growth. This suggests that adversity, paradoxically, can be a catalyst for profound personal transformation. It's not about glossing over the suffering, but rather acknowledging it as a crucible in which strength, resilience, and a deeper appreciation for life can be forged. Building on this, it's important to cultivate a mindset of acceptance. This doesn't mean condoning the past, but rather accepting the reality of what happened, releasing the grip of resentment, and choosing to focus on the present moment. Consequently, this is where the cultivation of self-compassion becomes paramount. Conversely, consider the dangers of dwelling on the past. Ruminating on past hurts, replaying them in our minds, can trap us in a cycle of suffering, preventing us from moving forward. Another crucial layer is the power of perspective. Sometimes, we become so fixated on the negative aspects of an experience that we lose sight of the lessons learned, the resilience developed, and the growth that occurred. Imagine a tree, battered by a storm. Its branches are broken, its trunk scarred. Yet, through time it continues to grow, its wounds becoming part of its character, a testament to its resilience. The scars, rather than being a sign of weakness, become a symbol of strength, a reminder of the storms it has weathered. Now, consider how this applies when you find yourself grappling with past hurts. Have you ever felt consumed by regret, anger, or sadness? Perhaps you've struggled to let go of past experiences, allowing them to dictate your present reality. The process of healing requires a conscious choice. It requires a willingness to acknowledge the pain, to learn from the experience, and to release the hold it has on your life. The journey is not always easy. It requires patience, self-compassion, and a commitment to moving forward, one step at a time. Let's now explore the profound influence of community and the power of shared experience in the healing process, particularly for those navigating the complexities of loss and the formation of new family bonds. Furthermore, contemplate the vital role of ritual and tradition in fostering a sense of belonging and stability. These practices, be they simple acts like shared meals or more elaborate ceremonies, provide a framework for navigating grief and celebrating life's milestones. Consequently, the collective participation in these rituals can create a profound sense of connection. allowing individuals to feel seen, supported, and understood within a larger context. Building on this, however, is the idea that community acts as a mirror, reflecting back our shared humanity. Through interaction with others, particularly those who have experienced similar challenges, we gain a sense of validation and normalization. One might, for instance, find solace in the shared silence of a grieving group, the unspoken understanding that arises from a collective experience of sorrow. Another crucial layer is the transformative power of empathy. When we witness the resilience of others, when we hear their stories of overcoming adversity, we are often inspired to embrace our own capacity for healing. Conversely, social isolation can exacerbate the effects of grief, creating a sense of loneliness and disconnection. Imagine Emily, initially hesitant to engage with the broader community, gradually finding solace and support in the simple acts of connection: a friendly wave from a neighbor, a shared meal with Jack's acquaintances, or a helping hand offered during a task. Each small interaction can weave a thread of belonging, gradually knitting a sense of security and acceptance. Furthermore, consider the impact of intergenerational connections. The presence of older adults, with their wisdom and experience, can provide a sense of continuity and perspective. They can offer guidance, share their own stories of loss and resilience, and serve as a living testament to the enduring power of the human spirit. Now, consider how this applies when you find yourself navigating periods of grief, isolation, or transition. Have you ever felt the weight of your burdens, believing that you were alone in your struggles? Seek out communities of support, whether they be formal grief counseling groups, informal gatherings of friends and family, or online forums where you can connect with others who understand. Embrace the healing power of shared experience, the comfort of knowing that you are not alone. Let's now shine a light on the delicate interplay between forgiveness and self-compassion within the context of healing and the forging of new familial bonds. Often, particularly in the wake of significant loss, we become locked in a cycle of self-blame, harboring resentment towards ourselves for perceived failings or inadequacies. Furthermore, consider the concept of unearned suffering. It's essential to acknowledge that grief and trauma can be profoundly unfair, and that we are not always responsible for the hardships we endure. Consequently, holding on to self only serves to perpetuate pain, hindering the potential for growth and the ability to move forward. Building on this, we must recognize that forgiveness, in its purest form, is not about excusing wrongdoings or minimizing the impact of suffering. It is, instead, about releasing ourselves from the burden of bitterness, allowing us to reclaim our inner peace. Conversely, the absence of self-forgiveness can manifest as a crippling sense of inadequacy, a persistent feeling of not being good enough or deserving of happiness. This, in turn, can severely limit the capacity to fully embrace new opportunities for connection and love. Another crucial layer is the understanding that self-compassion is not about self-pity. It is, rather, a practice of acknowledging our shared humanity, recognizing that all people experience challenges, make mistakes, and endure suffering. Imagine a sculptor laboring over a piece of art. They make a mistake, a crack appears in the clay. Instead of berating themselves, they choose to learn from the error, to incorporate it into the design, and to continue refining their creation. The flaw, rather than being a source of shame, becomes a part of the story, adding depth and complexity to the final piece. Now, consider how this applies when you find yourself caught in the grip of self-criticism. Have you ever found yourself dwelling on past mistakes, allowing them to define your sense of self-worth? Practice self-compassion. Treat yourself with the same kindness and understanding you would offer a dear friend. Acknowledge your imperfections, recognize that you are not alone in your struggles, and gently remind yourself that you are worthy of love and happiness. Let's now turn our attention to the profound impact of embracing vulnerability as a gateway to authentic connection, particularly within the context of new beginnings and the delicate process of building trust after experiencing significant loss. Furthermore, consider the concept of emotional transparency. This involves a willingness to share not just the surface-level aspects of oneself, but also the deeper, more nuanced layers of experience, the anxieties, the longings, the moments of doubt. Consequently, this level of openness can serve as a powerful invitation, encouraging others to reciprocate and fostering an atmosphere of genuine intimacy. Building on this, the act of sharing vulnerabilities can also be a potent form of self-validation. When we dare to reveal our authentic selves and are met with acceptance and understanding, we reinforce our sense of worthiness and belonging. Conversely, the fear of vulnerability often leads to the construction of emotional barriers, a defensive posture that can inadvertently create distance and mistrust. The tendency to play it safe, to avoid sharing our true feelings or needs, can stifle the growth of genuine connection. Another crucial layer is the understanding that vulnerability is not a sign of weakness. In fact, it requires immense courage to expose oneself to potential judgment or rejection. Envision two individuals standing at the edge of a vast, uncharted sea. One is encased in a heavy suit of armor, shielding them from the elements. The other, stripped down to their bare skin, is exposed to the winds and waves. While the armored individual might feel safe from immediate harm, they also limit their ability to experience the depths of the ocean. The vulnerable individual, while exposed to risk, gains the potential for a more profound, transformative encounter. Now, consider how this applies when you seek to form new relationships or deepen existing ones. Have you ever hesitated to share your true thoughts and feelings, fearing that it might make you appear imperfect or undesirable? Practice opening yourself up, one small step at a time. Express your needs, share your vulnerabilities, and allow yourself to be seen. You may be surprised by the depth of connection that can be cultivated when you dare to be real. Let's now turn our gaze towards the intricate dance of resilience and the cultivation of hope within the context of profound loss, especially as it shapes the dynamics of family and belonging. Furthermore, contemplate the art of reframing one's narrative. The human mind, by nature, tends to dwell on the negative, magnifying past hurts and amplifying present anxieties. Yet, the ability to consciously reshape one's internal story, to look for the silver linings amidst the storm clouds, can be a potent tool for healing and personal growth. Building on this, however, the practice of cultivating gratitude becomes paramount. This isn't about ignoring the pain, but rather about consciously acknowledging the blessings that remain, the small joys that punctuate the darkness. Consequently, the act of expressing gratitude, whether through journaling, prayer, or simply verbalizing appreciation, can shift our focus from what's been lost to what's still present. Conversely, the tendency to succumb to despair can be a treacherous pitfall. The belief that happiness is forever out of reach, that joy is a luxury one can no longer afford, can be a self-fulfilling prophecy. Another crucial layer is the understanding that hope is not a passive emotion. It's not simply wishing for a better future. It's actively working towards it, even in the face of setbacks. Envision a seed buried deep within the earth after a devastating wildfire. It might seem that all is lost, that the world above is irrevocably scorched. Yet, within the seed lies the potential for renewal, the inherent drive to sprout, to reach for the sunlight. The resilience of nature, its inherent ability to regenerate, mirrors the capacity for the human spirit to find hope even in the most desolate of landscapes. Now, consider how this applies when you find yourself facing seemingly insurmountable challenges. Have you ever felt overwhelmed by the weight of your circumstances, convinced that things would never get better? Practice reframing your narrative. Identify the areas where you feel gratitude, no matter how small they may seem. Cultivate a sense of hope by taking small, manageable steps towards the future you desire. Remember, the journey of healing is not linear, but rather a series of peaks and valleys. The capacity to find hope, to believe in the possibility of a brighter tomorrow, is a testament to the enduring strength of the human spirit. Let's now examine the significance of embracing adaptability, especially within the context of rebuilding a life and forging new relationships after experiencing significant upheaval. Furthermore, one must recognize the fluidity of life, the constant state of flux that governs all human experiences. A rigid adherence to past routines or expectations can become a significant impediment to healing and growth. Consequently, cultivating flexibility, both in mindset and behavior, becomes essential for navigating the inevitable uncertainties that life presents. Building on this, however, is the recognition that adaptability is not merely about surviving. It is about thriving. It's about the ability to learn from new experiences, to adjust to changing circumstances, and to embrace the unexpected twists and turns that life invariably throws our way. Conversely, resistance to change can manifest as a clinging to the familiar, even when the familiar no longer serves one's well-being. Another crucial layer is the understanding that adaptability involves a delicate balance between holding on to core values and being open to new possibilities. Imagine a willow tree, swaying in the wind. Its branches bend and flex, yielding to the gusts rather than resisting them. While its roots remain firmly planted, its ability to adapt to the environment allows it to survive and flourish. In stark contrast, consider a rigid structure, unable to bend, ultimately succumbing to the storm's relentless force. Now, consider how this applies when you find yourself facing times of transition or uncertainty. Have you ever clung to outdated beliefs or patterns of behavior, even when they no longer served you? Practice embracing adaptability. Be willing to experiment with new approaches, to step outside of your comfort zone, and to embrace the possibility of change. Remember, the capacity to adapt is not a sign of weakness. It is a testament to your resilience and your capacity for growth. Let's now consider the profound impact of redefining expectations, particularly when navigating the aftermath of significant loss and the subsequent quest to establish a new sense of belonging. Often we cling to preconceived notions of how life should unfold, constructing rigid blueprints that, when shattered, can lead to profound disillusionment. Furthermore, the act of releasing these rigid expectations allows for a more flexible and accepting posture towards the present. It allows the heart to open to unexpected possibilities, permitting the emergence of novel pathways for healing and connection. Consequently, the ability to relinquish the shoulds and embrace the is becomes a cornerstone for navigating the complexities of a transformed existence. Building on this, however, the process of redefining expectations also involves a conscious shift in perspective. It necessitates acknowledging the limitations of the past and accepting the reality of the present, even if that reality is vastly different from what was once envisioned. One must learn to relinquish the control that is, in truth, an illusion, and to embrace the inherent unpredictability of existence. Conversely, maintaining rigid expectations can become a formidable barrier to healing. The constant comparison of the present to an idealized past can fuel feelings of resentment, disappointment, and a profound sense of loss. Another crucial layer is the recognition that expectations often reflect underlying fears and insecurities. They can be a manifestation of a deep-seated need for control, certainty, or a desperate attempt to avoid pain. Picture a traveler meticulously planning a journey, charting every detail of the route, the accommodations, and the anticipated experiences. When an unexpected detour arises, the traveler, rigidly adhering to the original plan, becomes frustrated and resentful. Contrast this with the traveler who, armed with a general sense of direction, embraces the unexpected deviations, finding joy in the unforeseen discoveries that the detours provide. Now, consider how this applies when you find yourself struggling to adapt to changed circumstances. Have you ever felt trapped by a vision of how things should be, leading to frustration and disappointment? Practice releasing your expectations. Embrace the present moment. Be open to the possibility of unexpected joys and unforeseen opportunities. Remember, the capacity to adapt and thrive lies not in controlling the future, but in embracing the beauty and unpredictability of the present. Reflecting on this journey so far, a profound transformation begins to emerge. We've journeyed through the labyrinthine corridors of the heart, exploring the shadows cast by loss and the resilience that blooms in its wake. Like tracing the contours of a hidden landscape, we've examined the terrain of inner patterns, the invisible forces that shape our responses to adversity. We've seen how the very fabric of our being is interwoven with attachment, fear, and the echoes of past experiences. In light of these insights, the path forward becomes clearer, less a rigid route and more a flowing river. We've touched upon the profound impact of understanding another person's perspective, witnessing how empathy can dissolve the barriers of isolation. We've explored how authentic communication, like sunlight breaking through the clouds, illuminates the way toward genuine connection. We've seen how the courage to be vulnerable becomes the cornerstone of a love that thrives on truth and mutual support. As we pivot towards the final reflection, we recognize the essential role of forgiveness, both towards ourselves and others, as a balm for the wounded spirit. We see how community acts as a sanctuary, a place where shared stories weave a tapestry of belonging. The importance of adapting, like a tree bending in the wind, becomes vital, a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit. It's about embracing flexibility, accepting the ever-changing nature of existence, and redefining expectations as we navigate the terrain of rebuilding and renewal. Drawing these strands together, we see a mosaic forming, a picture of wholeness, emerging from what once seemed fragmented. It's a narrative about finding light within the shadows, about discovering strength where weakness appeared to reside. The journey thus far has been a process of deep excavation, a careful unearthing of the treasures hidden within the depths of the human heart. A powerful shift is taking place, a convergence of awareness, understanding, and the potential for enduring healing. The journey we've undertaken together, a trek through the landscapes of loss and the potential for rebirth, is not merely a story. It is a mirror reflecting the human capacity for profound resilience. We've navigated the currents of grief, charted the hidden currents of inner patterns, and witnessed the transformative power of connection. We've seen how empathy can dissolve the walls of isolation and how the courage to be vulnerable becomes the cornerstone of genuine love. The enduring message, however, transcends the specifics of any single experience. It speaks to the innate human ability to find meaning, strength, and belonging even when the world seems irrevocably broken. The central theme is the unwavering truth that healing is not a linear process, but a journey of discovery. It requires a willingness to confront the shadows, to embrace the imperfections, and to cultivate a deep wellspring of self-compassion. The true practice begins now. It's about carrying the insights we've gained into the tapestry of our daily lives. It's about recognizing that the capacity for love, for connection, for healing, resides within each of us. It's about choosing to approach the world with an open heart, with a willingness to both give and receive. It's about embracing the beauty of vulnerability, allowing ourselves to be seen, to be heard, and to be loved for who we truly are. Consider the willow tree, forever bending to the wind, yet forever rooted in the earth. Its resilience is not about avoiding the storm, but about adapting, about yielding, about finding strength and flexibility. So too is the human spirit. The scars we carry, the losses we endure, become not burdens to be hidden, but testaments to our capacity to survive, to grow, and to find profound meaning in a world that is often marked by uncertainty. May you carry this truth forward. May you embrace the journey with courage, compassion, and a boundless sense of hope. Let it be a reminder that even in the darkest of times, the potential for healing, for connection, and for a life filled with profound meaning remains eternally within reach.